Hello, my name is Don Smith, and I'm a new employee in the Newport School District. I'm a music teacher, and I was employed to teach at Thompson Middle School as well as Rogers High School, and I'm looking forward to all of the excitement that I can bring to the district, and the district, I'm sure, will reply for me. The reason for making this video is that I wanted a way of communicating some of the ideas that I have for a course that I'm teaching in Thompson, that we're still trying to figure out exactly what the syllabus is, and I thought a little bit easier than writing it would be to use a couple props to give you an idea about a very creative and different idea that I have for the path of this that I think offers tremendous opportunities for the district, particularly for growth in the instrumental music program. So, without further ado, the course is for 5th graders, almost the entire 5th grade of the district, and it's in the library. It was originally titled Library, and even though I have a doctorate in education and I'm old enough to have used from the card catalog and Dewey Decimal System all the way up to current media to do research, I am not certified in library, so the course really should not be taught as a library course. The 5th grade students are all receiving a fantastic education in music, in general music class. We can't really duplicate that either, so that's out of the question. So what I've been doing so far is reading a book that when Commissioner Walters, many years ago, the 2 commissioners of education ago, sent down an edict that everyone had to teach language arts in every classroom. I complied by looking at how many books there were about kids in band for my students to read, and it turned out that we discovered, between the librarian and myself, we searched for a month and a half, there wasn't one book available about kids in band or orchestra. And I was really taken aback by that, actually really surprised. Number one, that's the largest number of students that study at any one time. It's the largest group at the middle school age level. And then also, those students tend to be the better readers in the school. So my solution to that problem was to take on writing an entire series of fiction, young adult fiction, about that. Kind of like a Harry Potter sort of thing, that it wasn't a book just for boys or just for girls, and it had to do with a boy who was much like myself. When I was in 7th grade, my father was transferred in November from one city to another, a very different one, and it's from a very strict environment to a much looser, more progressive environment. And so it had to do with adjusting to middle school life, and it turned out that there were bullies and mean kids around, but my circle of friends in this book, and Ronnie's circle of friends in this book, would be Claire, a female percussionist from a wealthy family, next door neighbor Dean, who's a clarinet player, very academically gifted and Jewish, and another guy, a trombone player, Butch, who's kind of a more down-to-earth kind of kid and kind of goofy. So those are the 4 friends that go through all sorts of escapades. Of course, the typical things you do in school, but also being bullied and dealing with academics and going on crazy bike rides and things like that, other adventures. My intention is to continue that as a series. When I was in Curtis Corner Middle School, the students from Curtis Corner Middle School helped me with that book. I'd give them a chapter, up to 3 chapters, and have them take a look at it and tell me what they thought, and ask them some specific questions, or just get any kind of feedback that they gave me. They gave me wonderful feedback, and actually it was mostly things that I was thinking about, but it was easy to lean one way or the other when the students all felt strongly about this character doing this or this character being pictured another way. So I used their advice, left them in the credits, and the result was Band of Friends was published in 2009, and like so many other books, it didn't make a lot of money, but it did spread around the country, and I have some folks from West Virginia and from Maine, oddly enough, that are really beating down my door to finish book 2, as I had promised. So what I plan to do with the Band of Friends strand, we have about half of it read, and what I'm finding in the classes right now at Thompson is that describing how I was writing the book, kids are pretty fidgety, but as soon as I start reading to them, they settle right in, and their retention is really remarkable from week to week. They only have me once a week, and they seem to remember a lot of details from the story. So I think that's great. It helps to have some exit tickets and things and prompts to elicit that. But still, it's remarkable how much they're remembering. So what I think I'll do is finish reading that book to them, which should be finished somewhere around the end of the first quarter, and then have them help. I have the 3 chapters of the next book. Book 2 is Band of Friends, Holiday Surprises. And that's about 3 chapters are done, completely outlined, and I have outlines for the next 3 or 4 books pretty much completed. So have them help me finish writing book 2 with their advice, and include them in the process of publishing. I have a book about 12-year-olds publishing, the two young twin sisters who actually paid their way through college. Neither of them authors, both of them engineers, but how students can write and publish. So I thought that'd be a good way to fit that strand, but that's not enough to keep an entire course going. The other part of the course is the one I'm really excited about. I've been advised to try to do something as related to music as possible and as hands-on as possible, which I know will work great with these students. And so I need a bit of a prop for that. We need to, I want them to explore instruments, brass, woodwind, and string instruments. And we need to get them started on something and playing something. And how do you get enough instruments in your hands? So that was the trick. And I think I have an answer to that. Let me grab my first prop and we'll show you. Now this is a vuvuzela, or actually there's another name, Ipatata Mambu, which I'd never heard before. Mostly I think they're just called stadium horns in the United States. They were banned recently because of all of the noise and racket they were making at one FIFA World Cup event, and so soccer kind of banned them. But as you can hear, particularly when it first started, you say, wow, it's a nice resonant sound, particularly that upper harmonic. There are actually only 2 notes that work on the instrument. Is where most of the fans play. But there's that higher harmonic. Both of them are really resonant sort of sounds. But the most remarkable thing about it is when you start students on an instrument, on a wind instrument, the most important thing is getting a sound out of it, tone production. And then the second thing that you work on simultaneously, of course, is breath support. And for some reason with these instruments, when you hand them out to people, they just seem to know how to play them. Culturally, society, it's almost worldwide. If you hand this out, people figure out how to play it and they just start playing it. So it almost beats 2 of those things automatically, which happen to be 2 of the harder things to get going right in the beginning of instruction. What I plan on doing is using these really inexpensive instruments for, obviously not doing this in the library anymore, but probably in the cafeteria would make most sense. Basic ensemble. Sit in the right place, hold up the instruments the right way, rhythm and pitch, and do basic ensemble things just to get kids started on, and obviously working tone production and breath support. And as quickly as possible, switch them to the second and final prop, which is P-bone, a plastic trombone. And the reason for that is cost and a few other things, maintenance and everything else. And you get a much better sound, even though it's made out of basically the same material as the last, you get a much better sound. It actually sounds very much like a metal trombone, but it's significantly lighter. another advantage of having this trombone is that with the metal trombone, it's very thin. Well, all musical instruments are made out of fairly thin metal, and students see metal, so they think it's indestructible. And it's actually a little teeny dent anywhere along the slide renders the slide unusable. It locks it up. So with this, it's just tubing that it's not indestructible. They can crack if they're overused or roughed up at all, but you avoid all the dents here, and there's no oil. You don't have to oil it, so it minimizes the care and then also the expense. And for the younger kids, it's much lighter to hold. A lot of professional players are using them in parades these days. And the cost. I mean, Con Selmer is the major corporation, American corporation that's distributing these, and I've spoken through agents and everything else. And we know that we can get them. They sell in the market for $150 and up. We can get them for $120 or maybe even less. We need 25 of them because we have classes of 25 that meet 50 times or meet for 50 minutes. And then as far as mouthpieces go, so that we keep it sanitary, we need 50 mouthpieces, but these are very inexpensive mouthpieces. We can keep those numbered. I have pictured in my mind and have diagrammed out actually a PVC cart that you just put this as a rack on that, and then right behind it, 2 mouthpieces, so that each class comes in, they have an assigned mouthpiece, and I can sanitize everything between days. And that's why you need 50 mouthpieces, because they don't have enough time to sanitize between classes. But fairly inexpensive and a good start for the students. They'll be able to play, maybe not quite as high as I was, but Mary Had a Little Lamb. And many other songs. In fact, in the back of my mind, and Con Selmer would be willing to help us with this too. We have to work out the details, but in a few short weeks of instruction, they'll be able to play some simple Christmas songs. So they said they might be able to come up with another 75 of these to loan us that we'd be able to put into a Christmas or holiday or something like that, concert or tree lighting or something like that, and have 100 trombones playing simple Christmas songs. If you've ever heard Tuba Christmas or a trombone choir, you know what I'm talking about. It is a gorgeous sound, and I have a feeling out in the cold, I'd rather be playing this than a metal horn anyway. So the concept would be, let me put this down for right now. The concept would be to finish off the first quarter doing Band of Friends, and then quarter 2, continue starting the class with the Band of Friends sort of stuff, and then also doing instruction on the P-bone, and then in quarter 3, switch to clarinets, and quarter 4, switch to string instruments. Now, where are all of those coming from, and where's all the money coming from? The P-bones would be through the King grant money. I'd like to use some of that for that to buy P-bones because they're so inexpensive you can't really rent those. But all of the other instruments, the clarinets and the string instruments, we'd be able to rent at a fairly low rate for 25 instruments. And Con Selmer's working on figures for that too, so that we'd be able to have something that it has been modeled around actually the United States. I've run into districts in Michigan and also Pennsylvania, and one in Rhode Island, Situate, Rhode Island, which has a very strong program, although they don't have a string program, was starting every student needed to be in chorus or band for 5th grade, everyone in the district. So we'd have something similar to that. It ends up creating a very, very strong program years after that. And I think the reason for that is that when we talk high-risk testing, it's even higher risk for getting into the instrumental program. There's 2 opportunities that you need to be at both of them, or else you miss out on the whole thing. The first opportunity is when the demonstration comes to the 3rd and 4th graders. 3rd and 4th graders, I'm not exactly sure how we do it here. But you demonstrate the instruments, students indicate which one they might be interested in, and then there's a rental night sometime after that parents have to come to and rent the instruments. I guess there are some school instruments as well. Some districts have done and advertised, anyone have extra instruments laying around in their attic and always end up collecting more than they have expected, actually. And I'm hopeful that we could do that here on the Aquidneck Island and collect a group of instruments for students that might not be able to afford to rent. But at any rate, every student should be able to play, and if you miss one of those two events, that means for the rest of your life it's going to be hard to get into the instrumental program. You're probably not going to get into an instrumental program, so that's pretty high risk. And I would hope that with the students having some experience on multiple instruments, they'd have a better chance of making a better choice of what instrument they're playing, which also adds greatly to retention, as opposed to, I want to play that instrument because we have one, or because my mom played it, or because my friend played it. Once you experience the instrument, you have a better chance of being retained. There were some questions, of course, about what happens in 6th grade then. We already have 5th graders started in band. So what do we do with them, and what happens in 6th grade when the 5th grade band and new 6th graders, if they decide to join the program, merge? Let me talk about the 5th graders first in the cafeteria. The package would be 3 choices for them. Number 1, El Sistema, which we could talk about some other time. I had that video in the very beginning about El Sistema and the exciting new music and entire environment that's created by that for social change in Venezuela, not so much for music as social change, but they sure do make great music too. But one of the characteristics there is mentoring. Students, as they learn instruments, have to mentor younger students. So students already started on instruments would have the option, number 1, of mentoring students as we go through their instrument. The second option would be form small ensembles, chamber ensembles. Even if it's mixed instrumentation, there's plenty of material for that I've written, that I've arranged, that we'd be able to have access to. And then the third option would be, and this is my favorite one, sometime during middle school is the best time for students to explore the color instruments, oboe, bassoon, French horn, tuba, bass clarinet, and all of those instruments that generally you don't start students on. So they'd have an opportunity to do that during that time too, while working with the larger group on the P-bone and then the clarinet and then the other string instruments. So that's that. And then as far as 6th grade goes, I find that the beginning of 6th grade, you're kind of reviewing anyway when you get bands started up. And I find that students that have had a bit of a start in the summer or sometime before, when they join a band and they're that young, they pick it up really quickly and just kind of flow right in with the punches. So that usually isn't as big of a transition as one might think. The older kids learn faster, and they'll probably fit right in. It's just that the size of the group will be much larger, and that will make it easier, better sounding for the most part, and hopefully easy to manage. It has been in my experience when a student starts a little bit later, usually they learn a lot quicker and get right up to speed. So I hope that gives you an idea of what the package would be, and I am anxious to hear your suggestions and questions, and hopefully we'll come together on this rather quickly so that we can get it up and moving by the second quarter. Thank you for listening very much.